world? Established Rich coming right back at you. This conversation right here is one of them ones that makes you pause. Not because it's confusing, but because of who it's coming from and what is actually being said. We got Gillie Da King getting on the platform and basically saying that black people were rooting for Drake to lose. And not only rooting for him to lose, but that we were waiting for his downfall the entire time. Now, let's not water this down. Let's deal with exactly what was said. He said black people were dying to see Drake lose. He said we run with lies faster than the truth if it's gonna help bring somebody down. And he pointed to people singing lyrics from Not Like Us as proof that he was right.
But you gotta understand too, right? You in a great space right now because how our people work is we cheer you to the top, and then once you make it to the top, we want to see you come back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
But see, now you's good because you down at the bottom. So now, guess what we gonna do now? Cheer you back up to the top. Mm-hmm. That's just how our people work. You feel what I'm saying? Damn, we done seen him fall off. Damn, man, he went to jail, man. Damn, man, it's fucked up, man. Let's go, Fatty. So you ain't got to worry for the next couple years. You gonna be good. It's when you get back to the top, that's when you got to worry about the nigga saying, he did it again. Let's bring the nigga back down to the bottom. That's how our people work. So yeah, other races, they don't work like that. Garth Brooks could be Garth Brooks forever. Mm-hmm. You feel me? Jay-Z can't be Jay-Z forever. Kanye can't be Kanye forever. Drake can't be Drake forever. Think about that. As black people, we was dying to see Drake fucking lose a battle. Think about that. Not me personally, but as black people, look how many people jumped on board. The minor ain't nothing came about that nigga fucking with no kids or nothing, man. So, but you can have a whole arena singing that shit. Yeah. And it's probably a minor. Ain't none of that came out. He's supposed to have a fake baby on the side. Ain't none of that came out. So black people run with the lie faster than they run with the truth, long as it's up to bringing a nigga down. You feel me? So,
shit, you know, we don't play about shit like that. Like,
so,
especially,
you know what I mean? But that's just the reality of it, though.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the reality of it. Motherfuckers put smut on your name, and if whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, it don't matter. It's people on social media love a beautiful lie. They love a beautiful lie. I could make up some shit right now, and it had no truth to it. And it don't matter. Gillie said it. It gotta be somewhat true. Niggas don't give a fuck, man. So
now after hearing that, you can hear the energy clip. This was not a light comment. This was a full statement on how he sees black people. And that's the part I have a problem with. Because every time something like this happens, the conversation somehow turns into black people being the problem. It never stops at the artist. It always goes into the community. And that is lazy. Let's deal with the first point. He said people were waiting for Drake's downfall. Now, I'm not saying it ain't people who wanted to see him lose. That's hip-hop. That's competition. But that does not mean black people as a whole was sitting around rooting for Drake's failure. Come on now, that's a reach. Because the same black people he talking about are the same black people who built Drake into what he was. The same people who streamed his music, bought his albums, and packed his shows. You don't get that level of success without black support. So how do we go from being the foundation of your success to the reason for your downfall? That don't add up. Now, let's talk about the second point. He said black people run with lies faster than the truth. And he used people singing along the diss records as his example. But once again, that ain't how this works. In rap battles, people react to what sounds good, what hits hard, and what connects in the moment. That does not mean they doing background checks on every line before they repeat it. That's music. That's performance. And more importantly, that's been happening since the beginning of hip-hop. People chanted lyrics in every battle. People reacted to moments, not courtroom evidence. So to turn that into black people love lies, that's a stretch. It's not accurate and it's not fair. Now, let's talk about what he did not say. He did not talk about Drake's approach in the battle. He did not talk about the music. He did not talk about the authenticity. And that matters because if you're going to explain why somebody lost, you got to look at the artist first. You can't skip over that and go straight into blaming the audience. That's not analysis. That's deflection. And that's the part that don't sit right with a lot of people. Because now it sounds like you saying Drake ain't lose because of what happened with the music. You saying he lost because of who was listening. And that's a dangerous argument because it takes responsibility away from the artist and puts it on the people. Now let's talk about the success argument. He compared Drake to people like LeBron James and Jay-Z. He basically said successful black men always get hated on. And again, of course there's some truth in that. Success comes with criticism. That's part of the game. But that does not mean that every loss is hate. Sometimes you just lost. Every great has taken losses. Every legend has had moments where somebody else won. That does not mean the community turned against them. It means the moment belonged to somebody else. And in this case, the moment belonged to Kendrick Lamar. That's the part that needs to be made clear. This was a battle. Somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. And the results should be based on the music, not on blaming an entire group of people. Now, let's talk about the part that really bothers a lot of people. The idea that black people are always our own worst enemy, because that narrative gets repeated every time something like this happens. And over time, people start accepting it. They start nodding along. Yeah, we is like that. Always one of us. And before you know it, you agreeing with somebody tearing down your own community. And that's a problem, because you're not building anything with that. And I don't see other communities do that in public. I don't see other communities get on camera and break down how bad they people are. And if they doing it, they ain't doing it for entertainment. They not doing it to win an argument, and that's the difference. And I'm not saying we perfect. I ain't saying we don't have issues, but there's a difference between addressing a problem and broadcasting negativity as your main point. And that's what this felt like. This felt like a man skipping over the real reason for the loss and landing on black people are the problem. And I can't rock with that, because we've seen too many black people support these artists. I've seen too many people show love, spend money, and stand behind them for years. And that side never gets mentioned, only the negative. Now, we need to talk about why this type of narrative keeps showing up, because this ain't the first time we heard this, and it won't be the last. Every time a situation like this happens, the conversation shifts from the artist to the community. And somehow black people end up being the reason why everything went wrong. And that is not by accident, because when you shift the blame to the people, you take the focus off the performance. You take the focus off the decisions that was actually made in the moment. And that's what happened here. Instead of breaking down the music, the strategy, and the execution, the conversation turned into black people wanted him to lose. And that's a completely different argument. Now, let's bring in Charlemagne, because this is where the story takes another turn. He said there are people being paid to defend Drake and push certain stories online. And that changes everything, because now you're not just dealing with opinions, you're dealing with strategy. You're dealing with image control. You're dealing with people trying to shift how the public sees what happened. And if that's true, this blame black people narrative starts to look real convenient, because it takes the heat off Drake and it places it on a group that can't define itself as one voice. And that's the trick. You can't argue with a million people at once, but you can control a story if you keep repeating it. And that's why this matters, because now you have to ask yourself a real question. Are these opinions coming from real analysis, or are they coming from a need to protect the brand? And that's a different conversation.
Well, there's a PR firm that reps two people in particular, and it's interesting to watch these two people put things out there in the ecosystem to control the narratives about things.
Drake, Steak, and
Right.
damn.
This is a spreadsheet. What's that number?
2,026,000.
That's all the sites they feed stories to. By the way, this is only one spreadsheet. Look at this one.
So I would love you.
And by the way, look, and it's not just the sites. Look, hold on, look what's on. Look at the stuff that's on here. Look at all of the websites, all of the fan pages, all of the blog sites. I'm not going to jump out the window and accuse y'all of anything. I'm just going to simply say, we know who's getting paid to push things. We know who's getting paid to push things.
We should put,
and we know who's getting paid to push things.
We should put the people out.
When it's time to push a narrative.
If you defending somebody, that's one thing. But if you deflecting responsibility, that's something else. And that's what this feels like. This does not feel like a breakdown of what happened. This feels like a redirection of blame, because we watched this play out in real time. We heard the songs, we saw the reactions, and the response was based on the moment, not some secret meeting where black people decided who should lose. That don't even make sense. And that's why I say this clear. You can critique your community without tearing it down. You can have an opinion without generalizing millions of people. And you can defend the artist without blaming the fans. Those things can exist at the same time. But when you cross that line, you start sounding like you pushing a narrative instead of telling the truth. And that's the line that got crossed here, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the real support that never gets mentioned. The same black people he criticizing are the ones who are streaming the music. The same people who filled up the concerts. The same people who helped build these artists into global names. But that part never gets the same energy. Only the criticism gets magnified. And over time, that creates a false image. It makes it look like our community is only negative, when in reality, the support is what made the success possible. And that's what needs to be said. Because if you're gonna speak on black people, you need to speak on the full picture, not just the part that fits your argument. Let's keep it real. This was a rap battle. Somebody won and somebody lost. And the result should be based on the music, not on turning it into a community problem. Because once you start doing that, you ain't analyzing the game no more. You shifting the narrative, and people can see that. So at the end of the day, you can defend who you want to defend, but don't put that on black people as a whole. Don't turn a moment into an indictment of an entire community, because that's not the truth. That's a choice. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.